on TV, online and on your smartphone. This is Ticker News.
Hi there folks, if I was your boss and I told you to come back to the office or risk losing your job, how might you respond? It's a question many employees are grappling with right now. In a moment we'll hear from an Emmy award-winning journalist about some of the latest workplace trends as people head back to the office. I'm Ahron Young, let's get started.
Now from our headquarters at Ticker Park, this is Ticker Today.
Okay, great to have your company. When the pandemic hit not so long ago, tech companies were among the first to shut their doors and send their employees to their homes and remote offices. It was meant to be a temporary solution for the global health emergency. It seemed many worked for those companies, with a 2020 study showing productivity had increased by 13%. Wasn't meant to be forever though, and by this year giants like Amazon told their staff they had to come back to the office. Of course, Elon Musk has an opinion on this as well. Let's hear from the man himself.
Look, there are some exceptions, but I kind of think that the whole notion of work from home is a bit like the fake Marie Antoinette quote, "Let them eat cake." It's like really, you're going to work from home and you're going to make everyone else who made your car come work in the factory. You're going to make the people who make your food that gets delivered that they can't work from home. The people that come fix your house, they can't work from home, but you can. Does that seem morally right? That's messed up.
All right, there's the CEO of Twitter, of course, who's laid off thousands of staff. They're certainly at home. Now take one of his other friends as well, entrepreneur David Sacks, who's one of a growing number of business leaders making a firm stand against the work from home trend. He's got this viral tweet. Here it is, if you can read it. It's time to admit that remote work doesn't work. Work from home Friday is a 4-day work week. Full WFH is a 2-day work week. Every interaction has to be scheduled, which means a lot of information sharing doesn't actually happen. Remote is a great lifestyle, not a way to build a great company. So is this trend here to stay, or has the future of work now changed forever? For more, we can bring in Emmy award-winning broadcast journalist and the author of Suddenly Hybrid, Karin. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here.
And I see you're working from home.
I am indeed, actually, and it's interesting because prior to the pandemic, I had an office with a full staff, and then we all ended up going home, and this is where we've stayed. So it's interesting to hear those examples that you just gave.
Yeah, well, let's talk about different industries, right? Because Elon Musk says that the baker has to go to the bakery, so why should the tech worker be able to work from home? I know people who work in tech who get so much more done when they're isolated and not in an open plan environment. Is it sector to sector?
I think it's sector to sector, but also person to person. One of the things that happened during the pandemic is everybody kind of figured out, hey, I can work pretty effectively in an environment that I never imagined I'd be able to work effectively in. And that was a revelation for many, and also came with some challenges as well, especially for those who are trying to manage childcare at the same time as working full time. So I think it's very much an individual choice. Flexibility is the genie that has been let out of the bottle, and I think it'll be really difficult to put it back in, if not impossible, even though you have a lot of these big companies making headlines, making these mandates. I just don't see that playing out in the long term as a winning strategy.
Is it a strategy to force resignations and to therefore not have to do redundancies?
There is definitely a self-selection process going on. There are some people who do enjoy the buzz of the office Monday through Friday, and they're going to choose to work for those companies that also endorse that concept. But there are an awful lot of people who really enjoy flexibility, and a hybrid work schedule is one that works well for them. And in fact, the majority of companies are selecting hybrid. However, it is still very much a work in progress. This is an evolving situation where people are still trying to figure out what works and what does not. And those who are truly winning in this environment are those who are willing to experiment and get feedback and change policies over time as they see what works and what does not.
There's a lot of kind of old school mentality as well, where we've got this huge office we're paying a lot of money for. We need to fill it up and not have workers who we can't control, might be the narrative. And a lot of people who believe that they have to bring everybody back at a time where it can be quite hard to get workers. And it has become, in a sense, an employee marketplace rather than the traditional, an employer tells you what to do. Is that where we're at the moment, would you say?
Definitely. There is a huge gap between the desire of senior leaders to have employees back in the office and those who are the employees who want the flexibility. And that gap is not going to close anytime soon, nor do I think it ever will. I think that there is going to be just a lot of people trying to figure out, where can I work? How do I want to work? Are there opportunities for me elsewhere? If my current employer does not offer me the hybrid situation or the remote situation that I desire? And the answer is there probably are. The labor market is very tight, so it will become a retention issue very, very quickly and a recruitment issue quickly.
Yeah, it's funny. Well before the pandemic, I remember Richard Branson saying that Mondays at Virgin Atlantic were a place where you didn't have to come into the office, and a 4-day work week worked because the first thing that people do, they spend half of their Monday catching up with their colleagues for coffee, saying, how was your weekend? That by the time that you factored in the water cooler, you factored in the coffee time, you factored in the travel time as well, Mondays were essentially a wasted day, so too was a Friday. But does it come down to that theory of, if you don't work 5 days and you go down to 4 days, next you're going to want 3 days. You give a mouse a cookie, next they'll want a cup of milk.
I like the analogy a lot, actually, but I don't think that is the case. I think what I am seeing is also what you just mentioned that Richard Branson saw, is that whenever you're in the office, there is an awful lot of wasted time, or time that is not necessarily geared towards the activities of work. It's geared towards social a lot of times. For example, I was on a call with a client who said, yeah, I'm working in the office and I can't get anything done because they kept on getting interrupted by their other colleagues who said,
yeah, and let's talk about the hellish workplace situation of the open office, the open plan office, which for a long time workers have complained that it's too distracting. They miss their centralized offices, their actual own space, and that money-saving view that began in Fifth Ave that then spread around the world has actually been really bad for productivity, more so than people working from home.
Absolutely. And I think what you're going to see more than ever is just a reimagining of what the office should be, what it should be used for. Because I think the footprint right now is not meeting the needs of the workforce of today. So what is the office going to look like? What is going to motivate people to come in? And from the research that I have seen, it's mostly social. They come into the office in order to see their work friends, but it's hard to make the case for that, to come in whenever you go in the door and you feel like you are one of only a handful of people who have gone to work that day, and you end up on Zoom calls all day, and that seems pointless, right? So there's a math problem figuring out how to get people to come in to work at the right cadence so that you have that socialization. You do have that opportunity to build a little bit of that, I would call it social capital, with your colleagues, because that helps to build trust in the team and team cohesion. So that is important, but also giving people the opportunity to do their heads down work that requires a few interruptions, which often are part and parcel of being in the office, whenever people can come up and talk to you all the time and say hello.
So for you, would you rather work from home or work from an office?
I'm in an unusual situation in that I work from my home office whenever I'm trying to, get the, work done that is very much individual and not working with clients, but I often go on site. So I feel like I am actually in a hybrid situation as well. So for me, this environment works really, really well, but I also do an awful lot of work virtually. So it makes sense for me to work from home.
And you've also got this great book, Suddenly Hybrid, out as well, which I want to talk to you about in a moment. We're going to come back and continue talking with Karin Reid about this issue. And also, what about the great resignation which happened in the United States compared to the great burnout, which seems to be happening for a lot of workers in the rest of the world, probably to the United States as well. Do stay with us. I'm Ahron Young. That will be coming up right after this.